Hey there guys, this is Cole. Welcome to another video game review. Since I recently reviewed a video game, well, there's some other video games I'd like to talk about, so I figured, hey, why not review a couple more? And today's survival horror game I'm going to be reviewing, as you can tell by the title of today's video, is the 2015 PlayStation 4 exclusive survival horror game, Until Dawn, developed by Supermassive Games and Sony, released in 2015. So what is the basic plot to this game? Well, the plot of this game is as follows. When 8 friends return to the isolated mountain lodge where 2 of their group disappeared exactly 1 year ago, things quickly turn sinister. So that's a basic plot synopsis without giving too much away. And when this game came out in 2015, Supermassive Games, they weren't really a well-known developer, but this game really put them on the map. And ever since this game came out, Supermassive Games, they would go on to have success, and they did a video game series. Now, this is not, a lot of people confuse it as being a part of the series, but there was a video game series that Supermassive Games did after this called the Dark Anthologies Pictures franchise, which that series of games, it contains games like House of Ashes, Man of Medan, and a few other games, The Quarry, and a few other stuff, which I've not yet played those games, but I have heard a lot of good things about them. In fact, Supermassive Games, the developer of this, they actually have a new sci-fi horror game coming out this year, actually, called Directive 8020, which I'm really looking forward to. But so yeah, this is a game that I pretty much went in not really knowing a whole lot. I mean, I did know that it was a survival horror game set during the winter time and that it was an interactive movie type of game, but pretty much for the most part, I didn't really know a whole lot going into this, and I actually really enjoyed this game. So the game starts, and there will be spoilers for those who haven't played this game. So if you guys, if you do not want spoilers, click off the video, go play the game for yourself and come back to watch the review. Or if you are not a gamer, at the very least, watch gameplay of it on YouTube. But without further ado, let's get into my review. So the game starts off where we're introduced to this girl by the name of Hannah, as well as, a few of her friends and stuff like that at the beginning of the game. And what I will say, what I do like about this game compared to other horror games is, like, with this game, you get to make your own choices. Basically, what I mean by that is, like, for example, let's say, for example, you get to decide, are you going to save one person or the other? And it's an interactive movie type of game. And basically, with this game, whatever choices you make affects how the story of the game goes. And I think that that is such a creative concept for a video game. And another thing I do really like about this video game, I think this video game, for a survival horror game, this game's got some really good atmosphere to it, Even for a game that came out in 2015, I still think the graphics hold up really well all this time later. And I know in 2024, there was like a remaster of this game for PS5, but I did not bother with the PS5 remaster because apparently everyone who says this game is great, they said that the PS5 remaster was terrible, and unfortunately, the PS5 remaster, that is the only version of it which is available on Steam for PC gamers, which I think that is absolute BS. I think that the original PS4 ported version, which everyone says runs well, I think that version should be on PC, but then again, Sony makes a bunch of dumb decisions all the time, so I can't say I'm too shocked. But anyways, getting back to the review. Like I said, you're basically playing as this as a group of 8 characters, and at the beginning of the game, you're basically playing as one of the girls, and you're basically being chased in the forest, during the winter time, where after Mike and a group of friends, after a few of Mike's friends are caught, about to record Hannah, she runs out, because the friends were caught and stuff like that. She runs out into the snow, and you get to decide through this part which path are you going to take. And then at the end of it, there's a mysterious man who is wearing like this kind of like a mask so you can't really see his face, and it looks like he's about to hold out, he's holding out his hand for you to grab onto, but basically this guy is trying to grab, he's he's holding out his hand so you can grab a hold of him. And while this is going on, Hannah and her sister, Hannah's sister is grabbing onto Hannah's leg, and Hannah is trying to hold on to a branch that's just barely holding them on the ledge, and her other hand is up. And you get to decide in this part, are you going to reach up for the guy to help you on the cliff, or are you going to let go of the branch and both the sisters fall off to their death? Like, you get to decide that. And this game is fantastic. I've beaten it 3 times in a row, but every time I've played it, I've always chosen the option of, letting go of the ledge. I've always chosen that. And then not long after that, we are introduced to this character by the name of Dr. Hill, where there's this guy who, basically interviews a certain person who we don't know exactly who it is yet, but we will get to that, where basically he interviews you and, you look at pictures and he says, he asks you certain questions and stuff like that. And Dr. Hill is an interesting character in this game, and he's actually voiced by Peter Stormare, who I do rather like as an actor. For those of you who don't know Peter Stormare as an actor, he played the Russian in the 1998 Bruce Willis movie Armageddon, which I rather enjoyed that movie. He was also in movies like John Wick Chapter 2, Bad Boys 2, He also played one of the hunters in the Lost World Jurassic Park. But just Peter Stormare, I've always really enjoyed his work as an actor, so it's nice to see him voice a character in this video game. And one thing I will say, this game's got some really good cast members who, of course, are in movies. You have a character in this game by the name of Josh, who is actually voiced by Rami Malek, who was in Bohemian Rhapsody, which was a big movie. He was also in a movie that came out last year, The Amateur, which I know some people were mixed on that, but I thought that was a pretty good action thriller. But Rami Malek, I've always thought, was a solid actor, so it's nice to see him voice one of the characters in this game by the name of Josh. And then not long after the beginning, where, the 2 sisters escape and fall to their death, after that, the game takes place a year later, where you meet up with a group of teenagers, and they basically, Mike and, all his friends, they basically they decide to go up to the mountain lodge, the isolated mountain lodge during the winter on the mountain, because they just want to have a fun time and completely forget what happened last year. Well, obviously, because this is a horror game, obviously that doesn't happen, because it's meant to be a scary game. And I think this game, I do think this is a scary game. I do think that the atmosphere is rather good in this. I would say my favorite character in this movie was Mike, because yes, Mike was an a-hole, but he was a funny a-hole. And there's also other good characters in this game. I like Josh, I like Samantha and stuff like that. Now, granted, technically Samantha, she's probably the best written character, but personal preference wise, like I said, Mike is my favorite character, but you also got some other solid characters like Chris and stuff like that, Chris is a rather funny character too. Although, in the game, this game has a character by the name of Emily. And Emily, I do not like at all. I think she's very unlikable. That is my one nitpick with the game. And throughout the course of the game, you're very intrigued to see what happens, Now, I'm not going to spoil too much, but again, throughout the course of the game, you're intrigued to see where the story is going to go and, all the twists and turns and stuff like that. I also like how this game included Wendigos, which I thought was a rather cool twist, Wendigo monsters. The fact that Wendigo monsters were in this game, well, what I really like about this game is how it's kind of like a slasher film, but it's also like a mix of like a creature feature. I thought that was a unique combination for a survival horror game. I especially like the Wendigos in this game. I think that the Wendigos are rather creepy. And especially the scene where Mike and his girlfriend are in the woods and stuff like that, and they come across a deer. You get to decide, because a deer is hurt, are you going to end its suffering or, do what? And then the Wendigo, which we do not, and this game is very effective with its jump scares because you don't get to see the monster right away, granted, and I like how you don't really get to see what the Wendigo looks like right away because this game is supposed to build tension, and I think the game does a really good job at it. Like, for instance, the whole scene where a Wendigo drags a deer into a tree, but you don't see the monster at all. I think that's a rather effective scene. Like, that jump scare definitely got me the first time I played this game. And another thing I do like about this whole game, now I'm not going to spoil it for those who haven't played it, but I'm going to say right now, the whole plot twist, of who the killer really is in this game, I thought that was a really well done plot twist. I honestly did not see that plot twist coming at all. I thought that was a rather well done twist. And I'm going to admit this, the first time I did play this game, I wasn't satisfied with the ending because, see, with this game, there's a good ending and a bad ending. I got the bad ending the first time I tried this, so I tried the game a second time, and I got the actual good ending, and I managed to beat the game on a good note, and like I said, I've beaten this game 3 times, and 2 out of those 3 times, I received, the good ending, which, I thought was rather satisfying. So yeah, at the end of the day, Until Dawn from 2015, if you have a PlayStation 4, this is definitely worth a play, or if you have a PlayStation 5, I would say get this game, but if you're going to play this game, do not get the PS5 remaster, which I heard was really bad. If you want to play this game properly, now, not all games, but about 95% of PS4 games will work on the PS5 because they're backwards compatible, and the PS4 copy of this will work on a PS5 because it is backwards compatible. But yeah, at the end of the day, I thought that this was a rather good horror game and definitely one of my favorite games of all time. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I am going to give Until Dawn a 9 out of 10. So yeah. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching my review, and we'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye now.